The funeral home smelled like lilies and lies. I stood there clutching my tissues, watching my husband Richard's polished mahogany coffin, while his mother's eyes burned holes through me. When she finally approached, I thought she might offer comfort. Instead, her bony finger jabbed toward the exit as she hissed, "You don't belong here, gold digger." Before I could protest, 2 security men flanked me. The whispering crowd parted like I was diseased as they escorted me out into the rain. What they didn't know, Richard had left me a note. "No matter what happens at my funeral, make sure you're at the will reading. Trust no one." Before we dive in, I'm curious, where are you watching from right now and what time is it there? Drop me a comment below and hit subscribe because you are going to love this story. I never expected to fall in love with Richard Blackwood. He walked into my small bookstore on a rainy Tuesday, soaking wet and looking for shelter, more than literature. By the time the storm cleared, we'd talked for hours. He was different from what you'd expect of a man from one of the wealthiest families in Harborview. Kind, unpretentious, with eyes that crinkled when he laughed. His family hated me from the start. I wasn't from money. I wasn't from connections. I was just a bookstore owner who'd clawed her way up from nothing. A nobody, as his mother called me the first time we met, her voice dripping with the same disdain she might use for something stuck to her shoe. "She'll never understand our world," his mother would say, not bothering to lower her voice when I was in the next room. His brothers would nod in agreement, their faces mirror images of her contempt. Only Richard defended me, though each confrontation seemed to drain something vital from him. We married anyway, in a small ceremony. His family attended with frozen smiles, their wedding gift a prenuptial agreement. His mother had personally overseen. I signed it without complaint. I hadn't married Richard for his money. Life with Richard was good, despite his family. We were happy in our own world, until the nightmares started. 6 months before his death, Richard began waking up, gasping for breath. He installed new locks on our doors, started keeping files locked in his office. When I'd ask what was wrong, he'd kiss my forehead and say, "Just business concerns." But the light in his eyes had dimmed, replaced by something I now recognize as fear. The strange phone calls began next. Hang-ups in the middle of the night. Once, I answered and heard only breathing before the line went dead. Richard insisted it was nothing, but he started checking the rearview mirror more often when we drove. The last week of his life, Richard seemed calmer, as if he'd made peace with something. The night before he died, he held me longer than usual before bed. "I need you to know I've loved you more than anything," he whispered into my hair. "Whatever happens, remember that." The next morning, they found him in his office. "Heart attack," they said. "Natural causes." He was only 42. I was shattered, broken into so many pieces I couldn't see how I'd ever be whole again. But even in my fog of grief, I noticed the strange glances between his mother and brothers at the hospital. Not grief, but something else. Relief, maybe, or satisfaction. I should have known then that the funeral would only be the beginning of my nightmare. The day of Richard's funeral dawned crisp and clear, the kind of autumn day he would have loved. I dressed carefully in the black dress we'd bought together last year. Richard had said the color made my pale skin look like porcelain. Now it just made me look haunted. I arrived early to the funeral home, hoping for a moment alone with him before everyone else arrived. The director met me at the door with an uncomfortable expression. "Mrs. Blackwood has requested the family have private time first," he said, not meeting my eyes. "I am family," I replied, my voice steady despite the knot forming in my stomach. "I'm his wife." He shifted uncomfortably. His mother specified blood relations only. I waited in my car for 40 minutes, watching Richard's extended family file and cousins he barely spoke to, business associates he actively disliked, while I, his wife of 3 years, sat outside like an unwelcome stranger. When I finally entered, the massive arrangement of white hydrangeas by his coffin blurred through my tears. I made my way toward him, needing to say goodbye, when his mother intercepted me. Her black dress looked like armor, her silver hair pulled back so severely it seemed to stretch her skin. "You have some nerve showing your face," she said, voice carrying in the sudden hush that fell over the room. "My son is finally free of you." The shock of her words stole my breath. "Mrs. Blackwood, I loved your son." "You loved his bank account," she spat. "Don't insult us with your act." Security. Two men materialized beside me. One took my elbow as Richard's mother pointed toward the door. "Remove her. She has no right to be here." "I'm his wife," I gasped, tears now flowing freely. "You can't do this." But she could, and she did. The humiliation burned worse than grief as they escorted me out, hundreds of eyes watching my removal like some sordid entertainment. Someone took photos. I later saw them online. Gold digger wife removed from billionaire's funeral. I sat in my car for hours, unable to drive through my tears. By the time I returned to our home, Richard's home, as his mother had reminded me, I found the locks changed. My belongings sat in cardboard boxes on the porch, already damp from a light rain. A neighbor who had always been kind to me helped carry the boxes to my car. "I'm so sorry, honey," she whispered. "This isn't right." One of Richard's security guards, Jeff, who had always been friendly, approached cautiously. "Mrs. Blackwood asked me to make sure you take everything, and don't come back," he said loudly. Then, bending close while pretending to lift a box, he whispered, "Check the blue folder in the middle box. Mr. Richard left it there yesterday." I waited until I reached a hotel to search frantically through the boxes. The blue folder contained our marriage certificate, some photos, and a sealed envelope with my name written in Richard's decisive handwriting. My hands trembled as I tore it open. "My darling, if you're reading this, my suspicions were correct. I've made arrangements the family can't touch. No matter what happens, be at the will reading on Thursday. Don't tell anyone about this note. Trust no one, especially not my family. I love you. Always have. Always will." I clutched the note to my chest, sobs racking my body. But beneath my grief, something else sparked to life. Richard had known something might happen to him. He had prepared for it. That night, I saw myself on the evening news, being escorted from the funeral. The reporter's voice was sympathetic, but the damage was done. Sources close to the family say the young widow married Richard Blackwood, despite family objections. Questions about her motives have surfaced following today's dramatic scene. My phone began ringing. Old friends, curious acquaintances. I turned it off. In the silent hotel room, I read Richard's note again. Tomorrow was Thursday. The will reading. Something told me that despite her triumph at the funeral, Richard's mother's victory lap might be premature. The morning after the funeral, I woke to pounding on my hotel room door. My heart leapt into my throat. Had Richard's family tracked me down? I peered through the peephole to see a courier holding an envelope. "Delivery for Mrs. Claire Blackwood," he called through the door. I opened it cautiously, signed for the envelope, and locked the door again before examining it. The return address was from Harrington and Associates, Richard's personal attorneys, not the family firm. Inside was a formal notice about the will reading scheduled for 2 p.m. that day, along with a brief, handwritten note from Mr. Harrington himself. "Your presence is required by specific instruction of the deceased. Confidentiality has been maintained regarding your invitation." So Richard's family didn't know I'd be there. My stomach knotted with equal parts dread and determination. I spent the morning trying to make myself presentable, washing away the tear stains and attempting to look like someone who deserved respect, not pity. The woman in the mirror looked thinner, paler, but there was something new in her eyes. Something harder. At noon, a knock surprised me again. This time, when I checked the peephole, I saw Jeff, the security guard from yesterday. Mrs. Blackwood asked me to check if you'd left town yet, he said loudly as I opened the door. Then, lowering his voice, he added, "Can I come in? I need to speak with you privately." I hesitated but let him in. He immediately checked the room, closing curtains and lowering his voice to a whisper. "Mr. Richard asked me to give you this if anything happened to him." He handed me a flash drive. He said it wasn't safe on his computers or phone. My hands trembled as I took it. "What's on it?" "I don't know, ma'am, but Mr. Richard seemed frightened these last few weeks. He had me checking his car for tracking devices, sweeping his office for bugs." Ice slid down my spine. "Bugs? Who would bug his office?" Jeff shook his head. "He never said. But after his first wife's accident, he became careful. More so recently." I froze. "What do you mean? Accident?" "Angela died of a stroke." Jeff's eyes widened. That's what the family announced. But Mr. Richard confided that the initial medical report showed unusual toxins. The report disappeared, replaced with the stroke story. My legs gave out, and I sank onto the bed. Richard had never shared these details about his first wife's death. We'd met 2 years after she died, and he rarely spoke of her. "There's more," Jeff continued uncomfortably. "A private investigator has been trying to reach you. Mr. Richard hired him months ago to look into Mrs. Blackwood. His mother, I mean." "Why would Richard investigate his own mother?" "I don't know, but the PI said to tell you he'll be at the coffee shop across from the attorney's office at 1 p.m. today." After Jeff left, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. It contained hundreds of files, organized with Richard's typical precision: financial records, medical reports, surveillance photos, all related to either his mother or his first wife's death. One folder was simply labeled Claire, read first. Inside was a video file. Richard's face filled my screen. He looked tired, his eyes sunken. "Claire, if you're watching this, then I was right about the danger. I'm sorry for keeping you in the dark, but I thought it would protect you." He ran a hand through his hair. "I've been investigating Angela's death. It wasn't natural. And the person responsible, I believe it was my mother." My blood turned to ice as he continued, outlining his suspicions, the evidence he'd gathered, and the trap he believed was closing around him, too. "If something happens to me, do not trust my family. The will reading is protected. Harrington knows to expect you. What happens there will give you what you need to continue my investigation. Be careful, my love. You're stronger than you know." The video ended, and I sat stunned, pieces falling into place. Richard's growing paranoia, the new locks, the strange phone calls that had started after he'd begun asking questions about Angela's death. At 1 p.m., I sat in the back corner of the coffee shop, sunglasses on, heart hammering. A weathered man in his 60s sat down across from me without asking permission. "Mrs. Blackwood, I'm Daniel Morris. Your husband hired me." He placed a manila envelope on the table. "This is everything I've found so far. It's not conclusive, but it's damning. You think his mother killed his first wife, and Richard too?" The words felt impossible leaving my mouth. "Follow the money," he replied bluntly. Richard's father left the company divided, 49% to his wife, 51% to Richard. Richard's first wife was pregnant when she died. Under the company charter, a grandchild would have immediately received a substantial share, diluting the mother's control. I felt sick, and Richard was making moves to sell his shares and leave town. "With you," he leaned forward. "Your husband found evidence his mother has been embezzling for years. He was planning to expose her." A chill ran through me. "She'll be at the will reading." "Yes, and she'll try to discredit you. Maybe worse. Don't eat or drink anything they offer. Don't go anywhere alone with any family member." He slid a card across the table. "Call this number if you feel threatened. I have people who can help." As I left for the attorney's office, Morris called after me. Mrs. Blackwood, your husband believed someone else is involved. He didn't say who. Watch everyone. I clutched my purse containing Richard's files and walked toward the imposing granite building that housed Harrington and Associates, my mind racing with revelations. Richard hadn't died of natural causes. His mother had likely killed before. And now I was walking into a room with her, armed only with suspicions and a flash drive. But I had one advantage she didn't know about: the element of surprise. The offices of Harrington and Associates occupied the top floor of one of the oldest buildings in town. The elevator ride felt endless, each floor chime marking one step closer to a confrontation. I still couldn't fully comprehend. Richard's mother had killed people, my Richard, his first wife, and now I was voluntarily walking into her web. The receptionist's eyes widened when I gave my name, though she quickly masked her surprise. "Mr. Harrington is expecting you," she said, leading me toward a large conference room. "The others have already arrived." Through the glass doors, I could see them. Richard's mother sitting regally at the head of the table, his two brothers flanking her like guards. Their attorney, a shark in an expensive suit, sat opposite Mr. Harrington. They were laughing about something. The laughter died instantly when the receptionist opened the door. Richard's mother's face contorted in shock before hardening into fury. His brothers half rose from their seats. "What is the meaning of this?" his mother demanded, her voice razor sharp. Mr. Harrington, a dignified man in his 70s, who had been Richard's father's attorney before him, stood calmly. "Mrs. Blackwood is here at the specific request of Richard. She is, after all, his widow. She was specifically excluded from family matters at the funeral," the family's attorney countered smoothly. "The funeral was a family event. This is a legal proceeding," Mr. Harrington replied with unflappable courtesy. "Please, Claire, take a seat." I sat as far from the family as possible, feeling their hatred like a physical force. Richard's mother's eyes never left me, cold and calculating. Mr. Harrington began the formal proceedings, his voice steady as he read through the legal preliminaries. I kept my eyes forward, though I could feel Richard's mother's gaze boring into me. "Before we continue," Mr. Harrington said, "Richard left specific instructions that we are to wait for one more person." Richard's mother's head snapped up. "What person?" "Everyone is here." As if on cue, the conference room door opened again. A young woman stood in the doorway, perhaps 25, with striking features that stopped my heart for a beat. She had Richard's eyes. The silence in the room was absolute as she walked in, confidence in every step, despite her simple clothes and the backpack slung over one shoulder. "I apologize for being late," she said, her voice carrying the hint of an accent I couldn't place. "My flight was delayed." Richard's mother had gone pale, her hands gripping the arms of her chair, so tightly her knuckles showed white. "Who is this?" she whispered, though I think she already knew. Mr. Harrington smiled slightly. "May I introduce Sophia Blackwood, Richard's daughter?" The room erupted. Richard's younger brother James knocked over a water glass. His older brother William started shouting questions. The family lawyer was on his feet, demanding proof. Through the chaos, the young woman Sophia caught my eye. Her gaze was direct, assessing. I realized with a jolt that she knew exactly who I was, while I had never known she existed. Mr. Harrington raised his hands for quiet. "DNA testing has already been completed and verified. Sophia is indeed Richard's biological daughter, with his first wife, Angela." "Impossible," Richard's mother hissed. "Angela was never pregnant." "She was," Sophia said, her voice cutting through the tension. "She just never told you. My father found me 6 months ago." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Richard had known he had a daughter for 6 months and never told me. I felt a stab of betrayal, quickly followed by understanding. This was part of what he had been protecting. Not just himself, not just me, but a daughter no one knew existed. Mr. Harrington continued reading the will. Richard had divided his estate between Sophia and me. His 51% controlling interest in the family company was split, 25% to me, 26% to Sophia, giving her the deciding vote. He had also left us both letters to be read privately. "This is outrageous," Richard's mother spat. "The will is obviously a forgery. My son would never give control of our company to a stranger and his gold-digging wife." "The will has been authenticated," Mr. Harrington said mildly. "And there is another stipulation." Richard requested that his death be investigated independently. He has left funds in escrow specifically for this purpose. The family lawyer was now frantically whispering in the mother's ear. Her face, already pale, now looked carved from marble. "We'll contest this," she finally said, standing. "Every word of it. You'll both be tied up in court for years." As the family stormed out, Sophia remained seated, seemingly unfazed by the threat. When the door closed behind them, she turned to me with a small, sad smile. "He told me you didn't know about me," she said. "He wanted to protect us both until he was sure it was safe to bring us together." Mr. Harrington excused himself, leaving us alone with our letters from Richard. I opened mine with trembling hands. "Claire, my love, by now, you've met Sophia. I'm sorry I kept her existence from you, but her safety demanded secrecy. Angela sent her away as an infant to protect her from my mother, who she had come to fear. She was right to be afraid. I only discovered the truth about Sophia when tracing Angela's last movements before her death. My mother has been embezzling from the company for decades. Angela discovered this, and I believe it cost her her life. Now I've found the same evidence, and my mother knows it. Trust Sophia. She has the other pieces of this puzzle. Together you can finish what I started. Be careful. My mother will do anything to keep her secrets. I have loved you with all my heart. Richard." I looked up to find Sophia watching me, her own letter clutched in her hand. "He told me you were good," she said simply, "that I could trust you." "He never told me about you," I replied, still processing this massive revelation. "For protection, mine and yours." She leaned forward. "My mother sent me to her sister in Switzerland when I was an infant. She knew something was wrong in the family. She kept records, evidence. When she died, everyone said it was a stroke. But it wasn't. I finished for her. Daniel Morris told me there were toxins found initially." Sophia's eyes widened slightly. "You've spoken to the investigator?" "This morning, Richard left me files too. Evidence about your mother's death, about the company's finances." For the first time, Sophia looked uncertain. "My father, Richard, found me after tracking my mother's last communications before she died. He said he needed to make things right, that his family had taken my birthright, but he was afraid. He said his mother would do anything to keep control." We spent the next hour comparing notes, the picture becoming clearer and more frightening. Richard had been gathering evidence against his mother for months, documenting the embezzlement and building a case about Angela's death. Finding Sophia had been the catalyst that pushed him to act. He was going to confront her the day he died. Sophia said quietly, "He told me to stay away until I heard from him or his attorney." A chill ran through me. "His coffee," I whispered. That morning, his mother stopped by unexpectedly, brought him coffee from his favorite place. Sophia reached for my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "We need to be careful, very careful." As we left the attorney's office, I noticed a black car idling across the street. Through the tinted windows, I could just make out the silhouette of someone watching us. "Don't react," Sophia murmured, "but we're being followed." Richard's mother? Perhaps. Or someone working for her. She guided me toward a busy shopping area. "We need somewhere public to talk." We found a crowded cafe and took a table in the center of the room, away from windows. "Where are you staying?" I asked. "A hotel near the airport." "You?" "Downtown? But I can't afford it much longer." I hesitated. Richard's accounts are frozen until the will clears probate. His mother made sure of that. Sophia studied me, thoughtfully. I have money. My Swiss aunt left me well provided for. We should stay together anyway. Safety in numbers. As we talked, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Richard's office. Tonight at 10? Come alone. I have proof about his death. I showed Sophia the message. Her eyes narrowed. It's a trap. Or it's someone with information, I countered. Someone afraid to come forward openly. My father's last instruction was for us to work together, she said firmly. We go together or not at all. That night, we approached Richard's downtown office building cautiously. The night security guard, not Jeff, unfortunately, recognized me and let us in after I explained we needed to collect some personal items from Richard's office. The building was eerily quiet, our footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. Richard's office door was locked, but I had a key. Inside, everything looked untouched since his death. His coffee mug still sat on the desk. Family photos, including one of us on our wedding day, lined the credenza, but no one was there. We should leave, Sophia whispered. This doesn't feel right. Before I could agree, the overhead lights went out, plunging us into darkness. The door clicked shut behind us. A phone rang, not mine, not Sophia's, but the landline on Richard's desk. After 4 rings, it went to speakerphone. Looking for answers in the wrong places will get you both killed, a distorted voice said before the line went dead. Sophia grabbed my arm. We need to get out. Now. We fumbled our way to the door, only to find it wouldn't open, locked from the outside. The emergency exit, I gasped, pulling her toward the stairwell door hidden behind a decorative screen, a feature of the old building Richard had shown me once. We burst into the stairwell, just as we heard the main door to the office open again. Footsteps entered, slow, deliberate. We fled down the stairs, not stopping until we reached the lobby. The security guard was nowhere to be seen. Outside, we ran for 3 blocks before ducking into an all-night diner. Someone wanted to scare us, Sophia said, her breath coming in gasps. They succeeded, I admitted, my hands shaking as I gulped water. My phone buzzed again with another text. Next time won't be just a warning. Stop digging or join Richard. Sophia's jaw set in a determined line that reminded me painfully of Richard. They're scared of what we know. Or what they think we know, I corrected. We have pieces, but not the whole picture. Then we need to find it, she said, before they silence us too. That night, sharing a hotel room for safety, I couldn't sleep. Each creak and distant siren jolted me awake. In the other bed, Sophia tossed restlessly. He wanted us to work together, she whispered into the darkness. He trusted us to finish this. We will, I promised, though I had no idea how we could stand against the power of Richard's mother. What I did know was that Richard hadn't just left me his money, he'd left me a mission, and a daughter I never knew he had. The next morning, Sophia and I moved to a small rental cabin outside town that she paid for in cash under a false name. We needed somewhere off the grid to organize our findings and plan our next steps. Surrounded by dense woods with only one access road, we'd see anyone coming. We spread our evidence across the cabin's kitchen table: financial records, medical reports, surveillance photos, and Richard's notes. Separately, they were concerning. Together, they told a chilling story. Look at this, Sophia said, pointing to a bank statement. $3 million transferred to an offshore account the day before my mother died. I pushed forward another document from Richard's files, and here the same account received $2 million the day before Richard's death. Payment for murder, Sophia said grimly. But who received it? Your grandmother wouldn't pay herself. An accomplice, Sophia suggested. Richard's mother might give the orders, but someone else does the dirty work. We created a timeline on the cabin wall using sticky notes and string, connecting events from Angela's first discovery of the embezzlement through to Richard's death, Patterns emerged. Both Angela and Richard had scheduled meetings with the company's external auditors just before they died. Both had accessed the same secure server containing the company's untouched financial records. What about this? I held up a photo from Richard's surveillance file. It showed his mother meeting a man in a park. Their body language suggested intimacy, despite their ages. Sophia took the photo, studying it. I don't recognize him. I found more photos of the same man arriving at Richard's mother's house late at night, leaving early in the morning, meeting her in out-of-the-way restaurants. A lover, I suggested. Or a co-conspirator, Sophia countered. We searched through Richard's files until we found a name, Gregory Walsh, former military, current private security consultant. Richard's mother has her own security team separate from the company's. I remembered. Jeff mentioned them, said they gave him the creeps. We need to find out more about this Walsh, Sophia said, already typing on her laptop. If he's involved in the deaths. A search revealed little. Walsh kept a deliberately low profile, but we did find one significant connection. He had been Richard's father's bodyguard before his death 15 years ago. Richard's father died in a car accident, I said slowly. Single vehicle, no witnesses. Sophia's eyes met mine. The implication clear. How long after his death did grandmother take control of the company? Richard said it was immediate. His father's will gave her 49% ownership and temporary voting rights for Richard's shares until he turned 30. I paused as another connection formed. Richard turned 35 years ago. That's when he gained full control of his shares. And when my mother died, Sophia whispered, when control was threatened, people died. We were interrupted by my phone ringing. Jeff, the security guard. Mrs. Blackwood, he said, his voice tense. I need to see you. It's about Mr. Richard. I put him on speaker. What about Richard? Not over the phone. Can you meet me? Sophia shook her head vehemently. I'm not in town anymore, Jeff, I hedged. Can you tell me generally what this is about? He lowered his voice. I found something in the security logs from the day Mr. Richard died. Someone deleted footage, but they missed the backup server. I have it on a drive. My heart raced. Who deleted it? Mr. William, Richard's brother. But he was acting on orders from. The call suddenly cut off. We tried calling back repeatedly. No answer. We need that footage, Sophia said. It could be another trap. Or Jeff could be in danger for trying to help us. We debated furiously before agreeing on a compromise. We would meet Jeff, but on our terms, public place, daytime. Both of us present but arriving separately to watch for surveillance. We chose a busy shopping mall food court for noon the next day. I arrived first, positioning myself at a table with clear sightlines to all entrances. Sophia entered 20 minutes later from a different direction, confirming no one had followed either of us. 20 minutes past our meeting time, Jeff hadn't shown. 30 minutes. 45. Something's wrong, I murmured when Sophia passed by my table, pretending to look for an empty seat. She nodded slightly, continuing her circuit of the food court. She froze suddenly, her eyes fixed on a newspaper. Someone had left on a table. She grabbed it and walked casually to my table. Look, she whispered, laying the paper in front of me. The small article was buried on page 3. Security guard found dead in apparent suicide. Jeff's name jumped out at me, along with the clinical details found in his car early that morning. Carbon monoxide poisoning, a note apologizing to his family. This isn't a coincidence, I said, my voice shaking. He called us. Then hours later, he's dead. We need to go. Now. Sophia's voice was urgent. If they figured out he contacted us, they might know about this meeting. We left separately, using different exits, agreeing to meet back at the cabin. The entire drive, I checked my rear-view mirror obsessively, taking random turns to ensure I wasn't followed. At the cabin, Sophia was already packing our materials. "We can't stay here," she said without preamble. "It's not safe anymore." "Where do we go?" She hesitated. "My father, Richard, mentioned a lake house, somewhere remote, his family doesn't know about." "Spirit Lake," I said immediately. "We went there on weekends. Richard bought it under an LLC. Not even his brothers know about it." We packed quickly, erasing all evidence of our investigation from the cabin. As I carried the last bag to the car, I noticed a dark sedan slowing as it passed the cabin's access road. "We need to hurry," I said, throwing the bag in the back seat. "I think they found us." We took the back roads to Spirit Lake, a 3-hour drive into the mountains. The isolated cabin sat on 20 acres of woodland with the lake stretching beyond. As we unloaded our materials, I felt a strange mix of comfort and pain. This had been our happy place, mine and Richard's. "He talked about this place," Sophia said quietly, seeming to read my thoughts, said it was where he felt most at peace. We set up our investigation materials again, but with fresh eyes after Jeff's death. If Richard's brother William had deleted security footage, he was involved. The family's web of conspiracy was wider than we'd initially thought. That night, as wind howled across the lake, we found a new lead in Richard's files. Photos of his mother removing documents from a hidden safe in her home office. If she's keeping physical records, that safe is where we'll find proof, I said. "We can't exactly walk in and crack her safe," Sophia pointed out. "No, but," I hesitated, an idea forming. His mother hosts a charity gala every year at the family estate. It's in 3 days. Richard and I always attended. "You can't possibly be thinking of going," Sophia said, alarmed. "They'd recognize you instantly." "Not me," I said, looking at her thoughtfully. "You?" Her eyes widened. "What?" "No one in society knows you exist. With the right clothes, right makeup, you could attend as a donor's daughter. Get into the house during the event. And do what?" "I'm not a spy or a safecracker." "No, but I bet Richard's files include the combination." I started digging through the financial records. He kept records of everything. His mother's birthday, her anniversary, addresses, all the things people typically use for combinations. Sophia still looked skeptical. "Even if we get into the safe, how does that help? We need official law enforcement involved. The police won't touch the Blackwoods without ironclad evidence. Richard's mother has half the department in her pocket through the police foundation she chairs." I found what I was looking for, a page of numbers Richard had annotated with question marks. "Look at these." Richard was trying to crack her combination too. "This is insane," Sophia muttered. But she was looking at the numbers with interest. "What's insane is that she's killed at least 3 people. Your mother, Richard, and now Jeff, and gotten away with it." My voice cracked. "I won't let her get away with taking Richard from us." Sophia was quiet for a long moment before meeting my eyes. 3 days isn't much time to prepare." "No," I agreed, "but it's all we have." That night, as Sophia slept, I stood at the window watching moonlight dance across the lake. Behind me, our evidence wall told the story of a family built on lies, manipulation, and murder. Richard had died trying to expose the truth and protect the 2 women he loved. I placed my hand on my stomach, thinking of the secret I hadn't yet shared with Sophia. The baby Richard would never know, his child. One more person who needed justice. "I promise," I whispered to Richard's memory and our unborn child, "I'll finish what you started." The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and found Sophia already up, reviewing our files with intense concentration. She looked up as I entered the kitchen. "I've been thinking about the gala plan," she said without preamble. "It's too dangerous for either of us to go in person." My heart sank. "We need what's in that safe." "Yes, but there might be another way." She pushed a photo toward me. "Look who else has been at every charity gala for the past 5 years." I examined the society page photo. It showed Richard's mother surrounded by the usual wealthy donors, but Sophia was pointing to a uniformed server in the background, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. Her name is Martha Wilson. She's worked for the catering company the family uses for decades. And according to these staff records from Richard's files, she was Angela's favorite server. They were friendly. Hope flickered. You think she might help us? It's worth asking. And less risky than either of us walking into that house. We tracked down Martha's address, a modest home in a working-class neighborhood. As we parked outside, I felt a wave of doubt. Why would this woman risk helping us? Martha opened the door cautiously at our knock. She was smaller than she looked in photos, with silver-streaked hair and watchful eyes. Mrs. Wilson, I began. You don't know me, but Richard Blackwood's wife, she finished, her eyes widening. I recognize you from the photos. And you, she looked at Sophia with a small gasp. You look just like your mother. You knew my mother? Sophia asked, surprised. Martha glanced nervously at the street before opening her door wider. You'd better come in. Inside her tidy living room, Martha served us tea with trembling hands. I've been expecting someone to come asking questions since Richard died, she said quietly. I just didn't think it would be you two. What do you know? I asked gently. Martha took a deep breath. I was working the night Angela found the financial records. She was upset, needed someone to talk to. She told me Richard's mother had been stealing millions, hiding it offshore. Did she tell anyone else? Sophia asked. She was going to tell Richard that night. She never got the chance. Martha's eyes filled with tears. The next morning, they said she had a stroke. But earlier that evening, I saw Mrs. Blackwood put something in her drink when Angela stepped away from the table. My blood ran cold. You saw it happen? Martha nodded miserably. I didn't realize what I'd seen until afterward. By then, who would believe a server over the Blackwood family? I've carried that guilt for years. And now Richard, Sophia said softly. History repeating itself, Martha agreed. I heard the staff talking at the funeral. Richard had been asking questions about his mother's finances, about Angela's death. Martha, I said carefully, we need your help. We're trying to find evidence in Mrs. Blackwood's home office safe. She didn't look surprised. The gala is in 2 days. I'll be serving. It's dangerous, I warned. A security guard who tried to help us was killed yesterday. Martha's face hardened. I've lived with my cowardice for too long. Angela was kind to me when others in that house treated staff like furniture. I owe her, and I owe Richard. We spent the next hour planning. Martha knew the layout of the house intimately, including the location of security cameras and which staff had access to which rooms. Mrs. Blackwood's office would be off-limits during the gala, but Martha knew a service corridor that provided access. The combination, Sophia said, showing Martha the numbers Richard had compiled. Do any of these make sense to you? Martha studied them. This one? Her first husband's birthday, before Richard's father. She never talks about him, but there's a date engraved inside a locket she always wears. We left Martha's house with a plan and a growing sense that we were finally close to the truth. But as we pulled away, I noticed a car down the street, the same dark sedan I'd seen near our cabin. We're being followed, I said quietly to Sophia. She checked the rearview mirror. Turn left at the next street, then right immediately. I followed her directions, taking random turns through residential neighborhoods until we were certain we'd lost the tail. They know we're investigating, Sophia said grimly. The gala may be our only chance. Back at the lake house, we prepared Martha with everything she would need. The likely combination for the safe, what documents to look for, and a small camera disguised as a brooch to photograph anything she found. That evening, as storm clouds gathered over the lake, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello, Claire. The smooth, cold voice of Richard's mother sent ice through my veins. I think it's time we talked. I put the phone on speaker, gesturing frantically for Sophia to stay silent. I have nothing to say to you, I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady. Don't you? Not even about your little investigation? Or your new friend, Richard's supposed daughter? My heart pounded. She knew about Sophia. I'm offering you a civilized solution, she continued. $5 million, cash, tax-free. You sign away any claim to Richard's estate and company, and you disappear, both of you. And if we refuse, her laugh was soft, almost gentle. You're smart enough to answer that yourself, dear. Ask Jeff's widow how refusal works out. The line went dead. Sophia and I stared at each other in horrified silence. She knows everything, Sophia whispered. Not everything, I countered, my resolve hardening. She doesn't know about Martha, or what we've already uncovered. She's trying to scare us off before the gala, Sophia realized, which means whatever is in that safe is worth killing for. I placed my hand protectively over my stomach again. We need to warn Martha. Give her a chance to back out. And if she does, I met Sophia's eyes, then I'll go to the gala myself. The storm broke over the lake, lightning illuminating our evidence wall in stark flashes. 2 days until the gala. 2 days to prepare for our one chance at justice. The day before the gala, we drove to Martha's house to give her the final details. The street was quiet, too quiet. No children playing despite the pleasant weather. No neighbors working in their yards. I parked a block away. Something feels wrong. Sophia nodded, her face tense. Drive past without stopping. Let's see the house first. As we cruised slowly past, my hands tightened on the steering wheel. Martha's front door stood slightly ajar. Her cheerful window boxes had been knocked over, soil spilling across the porch. Keep driving, Sophia whispered. At the corner, a police cruiser sat idling. The officer watched us pass with too much interest. I got to her, I said, my voice hollow as we drove away from the neighborhood. Do you think she's... I don't know, Sophia replied, but we can't go back there. We drove in tense silence back to the lake house. The plan we'd carefully constructed was in shambles. Without Martha's help, we had no way to access the safe during the gala. We need a new approach, I said as we pulled up to the cabin. One they won't expect. Inside, we found the door unlocked, though we definitely locked it before leaving. Nothing seemed disturbed, but a chill ran down my spine. They've been here, Sophia whispered, pointing to a small mud smear on the floor that hadn't been there before. We did a frantic sweep of the cabin. Our evidence wall had been photographed. We could tell because some sticky notes were slightly repositioned, but nothing was taken. Why leave everything? I wondered. Because they want us to know they can get to us any time, Sophia said grimly. This is psychological warfare. We relocated our evidence to the car, no longer feeling safe in the cabin. Sitting on the dock overlooking the lake, we tried to formulate a new plan. The gala is tomorrow night, I said. If we can't get to the safe during the event, we go earlier, Sophia finished, before guests arrive. The house will still have staff, security. Yes, but fewer than during the gala, and they'll be distracted with preparations. I thought about it, remembering the layout Richard had described. Service entrances will be busy with deliveries, florists, caterers, equipment. We could pose as part of the staff, Sophia suggested. Martha must have told others about helping us. Maybe someone else from the catering company. I shook my head. Too risky. Mrs. Blackwood might have had Martha's entire team replaced. We fell silent, watching the sun begin to set over the lake. In the dying light, I remembered something Richard once told me about his childhood home. The tunnels, I said suddenly. Sophia looked at me quizzically. The house was built during Prohibition. There are tunnels connecting the wine cellar to the boathouse on the property's lake edge. Richard showed me once. His grandfather used them to smuggle liquor. Hope flickered in Sophia's eyes. Would they be guarded? I doubt anyone besides family even knows they exist. Richard said they were sealed off decades ago, for show, but the actual passages still work. We used them once when we wanted to avoid his mother during a holiday party. Can you remember how to access them? I closed my eyes, picturing the heavy wine rack that concealed the entrance, the damp stone steps leading down. Yes, but getting to the boathouse without being seen, under cover of darkness, Sophia said. Tonight, the plan came together quickly. We would approach by water after midnight, using the small motorboat kept at our cabin. The Blackwood Estates boathouse was minimally secured, designed to deter casual trespassers, not determined intruders with knowledge of secret entrances. We spent the afternoon gathering supplies, flashlights, dark clothes, gloves, and tools to photograph documents. As sunset approached, I found Sophia looking through the photos of Richard and Angela. I barely remember her, she said softly. I was so young when she sent me away. All these years I thought she didn't want me. She was protecting you, I said gently, like Richard was trying to protect both of us. And now we're walking right into danger. I placed my hand over hers. We have something they don't expect. What's that? Each other. I hesitated, then decided it was time, and someone else worth fighting for. Sophia looked at me questioningly. I'm pregnant, I said quietly. Richard never knew. I found out the day after he died. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears. She embraced me fiercely. All the more reason to be careful tonight. All the more reason to succeed, I countered. As darkness fell, we prepared the boat, speaking little, each lost in our own thoughts. I couldn't help remembering the last conversation I'd had with Richard, the night before he died. Sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks, he'd said, holding me close. But the alternative, living with secrets and lies, isn't really living at all. I hadn't understood what he meant then. Now, as Sophia and I pushed the boat into the dark water, his words echoed in my mind like a blessing. We were taking the fight directly to the heart of the Blackwood estate and its most dangerous occupant. Tonight, we would either find the truth Richard died for, or we might join him in death. Either way, there would be no turning back. The lake was black glass under the moonless sky. We cut the boat engine 100 yards from shore and paddled silently toward the Blackwood Estate's private cove. The boathouse loomed ahead, a large structure built to house the family's collection of watercraft. My heart hammered as we eased the boat alongside the dock. Each splash and creak seemed magnified in the darkness. Above us, the main house blazed with lights, as staff prepared for tomorrow's gala. Security cameras, Sophia whispered as we secured the boat. None in the boathouse. Richard's mother hates technology, claims it's unsightly. We slipped inside the cavernous building. Moonlight filtered through high windows, casting ghostly reflections on the water lapping around docked boats. I led Sophia to the back wall, behind stacked kayaks and life jackets. Here, I whispered, pushing aside a shelving unit to reveal a metal door set flush with the wall. It opened with a protesting groan when I turned the handle. The tunnel beyond was narrow and dank, smelling of mildew and forgotten secrets. Our flashlight beams bounced eerily off stone walls. As we followed the passage, water dripped somewhere ahead, marking time with our cautious footsteps. How far? Sophia asked, her voice barely audible. A few 100 yards. It comes up in the wine cellar. The tunnel gradually sloped upward, the rough-hewn stone giving way to brick. Finally, we reached another door, this one wooden and reinforced with iron bands. I pressed my ear against it before carefully pushing it open. Beyond lay the Blackwood wine cellar, row upon row of bottles in climate-controlled racks. Through the ceiling, we could hear the muffled sounds of activity as staff bustled above. The office is on the second floor, I whispered. East wing. We crept up the cellar stairs to the kitchen, pausing at the door. Voices came from within. staff preparing for tomorrow's event. We would have to find another room. A service corridor ran behind the kitchen. We slipped into it, navigating by my memories of the house layout and Sophia's remarkable sense of direction. Twice we ducked into alcoves as staff passed. Once we froze as Richard's brother William's voice approached, then veered away down another hallway. The grand staircase was impossible, too exposed. But a smaller service stairway gave us access to the second floor. The hallways upstairs were mercifully empty. The family and staff focused on the public areas downstairs. Outside Mrs. Blackwood's office, I knelt to examine the door. "No alarm that I can see," I whispered. "She relies more on human security than electronic." The door was locked, but the old skeleton key hung on a hook in a nearby linen closet, exactly where Richard had once shown me. "His mother is obsessively orderly," he'd explained. "Everything in its proper place." Inside the office, we moved with extreme caution. The heavy drapes were drawn, allowing us to use our flashlights. The room was elegant and imposing. Mahogany furniture, oil paintings of stern-faced Blackwood ancestors, and a massive desk facing the door. "The safe?" Sophia asked. "Behind that painting," I said, pointing to a landscape depicting the estate in earlier days. Sophia lifted the frame carefully, revealing a wall safe with a manual combination dial. She pulled a small notepad from her pocket, where we'd written the possible combinations Martha had suggested. The first two failed. The third, the birth date of Mrs. Blackwood's first husband, clicked softly as the lock disengaged. "We did it," Sophia breathed as the safe door swung open. Inside were stacks of documents, jewelry boxes, and several USB drives. We photographed everything methodically, careful to replace each item exactly as we found it. The documents confirmed our suspicions. Records of millions embezzled from the company, transferred through shell corporations to offshore accounts. "Look at this," Sophia said, holding up a medical report. "Toxicology results for Angela. High levels of digital ice, a heart toxin that mimics stroke symptoms." "And this," I added, finding a similar report labeled with Richard's name, "same compound, different dose." Among the papers was a small black book, a ledger containing dates and payment amounts. Two names appeared repeatedly: Gregory Walsh and Dr. Simon Mercer, the family's longtime physician who had declared both Angela and Richard's deaths as natural causes. "Payoff records," Sophia said grimly. "She documented everything. She never expected anyone to find this safe." I realized. Richard said she keeps all evidence of her crimes, thinks it gives her power over her accomplices. As I reached deeper into the safe, my fingers touched something cold and metallic. I pulled out a small silver key with a paper tag attached. "Cabin." "What cabin?" Sophia wondered. "Not the lake house," I said. "This is something else." A floorboard creaked in the hallway outside the office. We froze, turning off our flashlights. The door handle turned slowly. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The door opened. William, Richard's younger brother, stood silhouetted in the doorway, his expression shifting from surprise to something unreadable. "I thought it might be you," he said quietly, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. When the security system showed movement in the tunnels, my mind raced. If he alerted his mother or security, we were finished. "William," I began, "your mother killed Richard. And Angela. We have proof." "I know," he said simply. Sophia and I exchanged shocked glances. "You know?" Sophia asked. William sank into a chair, suddenly looking much older than his 30 years. "I've always known. About Angela, at least. I saw her put something in Angela's drink that night." His voice was hollow. "I was 17, too scared to say anything. Then when Richard started investigating, he trailed off, pain etching his features." "You knew she would kill him too?" I finished. He nodded. "I warned him, but he wouldn't stop. Said he had to do it for Angela, for Sophia. He looked at Sophia with sad recognition. He told me about you. Said you were safely away from all this. Not anymore, Sophia said. No, William agreed. Not anymore. He seemed to reach a decision. You need to leave. Now. Mother will be back in 30 minutes. She's at a board meeting. Come with us, I urged. Help us stop her. William shook his head. I can't. She has things on me too. Things I've done. He looked away. But I can give you time to escape. Your brother would want you to do the right thing, Sophia said softly. A bitter smile crossed William's face. Richard always was the brave one. He hesitated, then added, The key you found, it's to a hunting cabin in the North Woods. That's where Walsh takes people who need to disappear for questioning. It's where Jeff was before they staged his suicide. My blood turned to ice. Jeff is alive? Was 3 days ago. I don't know now. We needed to leave, to process this information and figure out our next move. But as we prepared to go, heavy footsteps sounded in the hallway, multiple sets moving quickly. She's back early, William said, panic flashing across his face. The service stairs, go. We fled toward the back staircase. But as we turned the corner, Gregory Walsh appeared, blocking our path. His cold eyes registered no surprise, only professional assessment as he reached inside his jacket. William stepped between us. Let them go, Walsh. Stand aside, Mr. Blackwood, Walsh said calmly. This doesn't concern you. It concerns my brother's wife and his daughter. That makes it my concern.
Walsh's expression didn't change. Your mother's orders are clear.
Then you'll have to go through me, William said. For a moment, no one moved. Then Walsh nodded slightly. As you wish. Everything happened at once. Walsh lunged forward. William shoved us backward, yelling for us to run. A sickening thud. Then William crumpled to the floor. Sophia grabbed my arm and pulled me down another hallway. Behind us, Walsh shouted for backup. We raced toward the main staircase. Our only option now. Halfway down, we came face to face with Mrs. Blackwood, ascending regally amid a group of staff members. She stopped, eyes widening as she recognized us. Then her face settled into a cold smile. Claire? And this must be the alleged granddaughter. Her voice carried just the right note of concern as she turned to the startled staff. These women are disturbed. They've been harassing our family since my son's death. Call security. Sophia stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. Your son Richard knew you killed his first wife. He was gathering evidence against you when you poisoned him too. Gasps from the staff. Mrs. Blackwood's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. My poor dear, she said to the shocked onlookers. You see how disturbed she is, making wild accusations in her grief. I pulled out my phone, holding it up so all could see. We have the evidence. Financial records, medical reports proving poisoning, your payment ledger for the killings. My voice gained strength. It's already been sent to the police, the FBI, and every major news outlet. The color drained from Mrs. Blackwood's face. You're lying, she whispered. Am I? I stepped closer. Check your safe if you don't believe me. We found everything, just like Richard did before you killed him. Something changed in her eyes, calculation giving way to primitive rage. She lunged forward, her manicured hands reaching for my throat. Security arrived at that moment, pulling her away as she screamed accusations. In the chaos, I heard Walsh's voice from the top of the stairs, calling for his men to stop us. This way, called one of the kitchen staff, a young woman who had been watching the scene unfold. She led us through a service door to the garage. Take that car, she said, pointing to a staff vehicle. Keys are inside. Why are you helping us? Sophia asked as we rushed toward the car. Martha is my aunt, she replied simply. She's hiding at my place. She told me to watch for you. As we sped away from the estate, sirens wailed in the distance. Whether they were coming for us or responding to the chaos at the house, I couldn't tell. The hunting cabin, Sophia said urgently. If Jeff is still alive. I nodded, pressing the accelerator harder. Behind us, the Blackwood estate glowed like a funeral pyre against the night sky. Ahead lay uncertainty, and perhaps one final chance to save a life. Richard would be proud of William, I said softly, and of us. Sophia reached over to squeeze my hand. This isn't over yet. 6 months later, I sat in the back of the courtroom as the jury foreman stood to deliver the verdict. Mrs. Blackwood sat at the defendant's table, her once immaculate appearance now subdued in simple clothes, her silver hair dulled by months in detention. On the count of first-degree murder in the death of Angela Blackwood, we find the defendant guilty. A soft gasp rippled through the courtroom. I felt Sophia's hand tighten in mine. On the count of first-degree murder in the death of Richard Blackwood, we find the defendant guilty. Tears slid down my cheeks, unexpected relief washing through me. Mrs. Blackwood didn't turn, didn't react. Her rigid posture betrayed nothing, as the judge thanked the jury and set a date for sentencing. Outside, reporters clamored for statements. We pushed past them to where William waited by a black SUV, his arm still in a sling from Walsh's attack. "It's over," he said as we approached. His face was lined with new gravity, but the haunted look in his eyes had faded. "Almost," I replied. "Walsh's trial is next month." "He'll talk," William predicted. "He's already offering evidence against Mother for a reduced sentence." The drive to Richard's office, now Sophia's and mine, was quiet, each of us lost in reflection. The past months had been a whirlwind. Jeff's rescue from the hunting cabin, barely alive but recovered enough to testify. The FBI investigation that uncovered decades of financial crimes. The media frenzy when our story broke. William had surprised us all by cooperating fully with prosecutors, despite implicating himself in covering up his mother's crimes. His testimony had been crucial in securing the guilty verdict. At the office, we found Jeff waiting. His ordeal had aged him, but he stood straighter now, pride having replaced subservience. "It's done," I told him. "Both counts." He nodded, satisfaction in his eyes. "Mr. Richard can rest now." Inside, we gathered in the conference room, where pictures of Richard now hung alongside those of his father and Angela. The company was changing under our guidance. Sophia's financial acumen, paired with my focus on the publishing division, Richard had always wanted to expand. "I have something to show you," William said, placing a small box on the table. Inside was a simple silver frame containing a sonogram image, my baby, due in 2 months. "Richard had this made," William explained. "He knew before he died, wanted to surprise you that weekend." Fresh tears blurred my vision. "He knew?" William nodded, said it gave him even more reason to finish what he'd started, to make things right. Later, as sunset painted the city in gold, Sophia and I stood at Richard's grave. The simple headstone bore only his name, birth and death dates, and the words he had chosen: "Truth endures." "I never imagined this outcome when I was thrown out of his funeral," I said quietly. "Finding you, getting justice, continuing his legacy." Sophia smiled, linking her arm through mine. "He brought us together. Even from beyond, he protected us both." I placed my hand on my rounded belly, feeling the baby, a girl, kick in response. "I'll tell her everything about her father, how brave he was, how he fought for what was right, and about her aunt," Sophia added with a smile, "who came from Switzerland to find her family and got more than she ever expected." As we walked away, I glanced back once at the grave. For a moment, I could almost see Richard there, smiling that crinkly-eyed smile I'd fallen in love with in my little bookstore on a rainy day. "We did it," I whispered. "We finished what you started." The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. Not an answer, but somehow comfort enough. That's our story. If you were in Claire's position, would you have been brave enough to confront such a powerful enemy? Share your thoughts below. Hit subscribe for more stories just like this, and check out our next thrilling tale.